Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Bolts. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Up now as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Smooth stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, just insane.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Old Bastards Racing League. I am your host, Gareth McAllister, bringing you the action in 1080p 60 frames a second, if my Australian internet allows us to do so. I'm looking at you, last week's broadcast. Now, we have a great race prepared for you today in Old Bastards Racing League here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the second of the 5 final races to make up the rest of the season. Now, 1.52 mile track with a temperature right now sitting around 80 degrees on track. So shouldn't be too hot for these drivers, at least as far as qualifying is concerned. We're going to have a look around as we're going to jump on and watch Clay Walker making his way around as we prepare the times to start flooding in. Our fastest lap in practice was a 30.11 set by Dwayne MacArthur himself. Now, we have 140 laps here for you tonight, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty good one. 50 mile an hour pit speed limit. So there's going to be a bit of a limited speed, especially when you come back down from, I reckon we're going to see some quite high speeds throughout this race. A fuel window roughly 55 to 62 laps, somewhere in that vicinity. Only one triple number driver coming out tonight, and we will go over that a little bit later. About 36 drivers coming out here, so that is good to see. A nice big grid once again, as we are so used to seeing here at the Old Bastards Racing League. Greg McDaniel currently sitting on top with a 30.38. Clay Walker managing to get himself into the 6th position at the moment with a 30.7. So he is sitting pretty well there, and he is able to make his way up to the 2nd position. Unfortunately, that will be his 2nd and final time he is able to make around this track tonight, I believe. So a lot of drivers still making their way out. We're going to jump towards Darrell Winiger, who has just started his 2nd lap. So he'll be looking to make his way around the final turns as we go into turn 3. Coming out of turn 4 is going to see where he lines up on this grid. Already 19 times on the board, and it's looking pretty good. Jumps below that white line, not a penalty given here today, and able to get himself securely into the top 10 positions for the moment, just edging out Alan Wanamaker. As I say that, Troy Baker comes in with a massive time and jumps up. Clint Rice jumping up seemingly out of nowhere as well. Just starting their run now. Michael Watts, we're going to have to talk about him because that was a very unfortunate last week at the Charlotte Roval. He was looking pretty solid to get in there. Had a bit of an issue and was unable to recover, but that did allow Courtney Nelson to get their first win of the season. Very much loved driver in the Old Bastards Racing League community. So it was fantastic to have him join us up here in the booth. Pac-Man CT, Iron Spider Racing joining us in the spectator area. Glad to see some familiar names. Always happy to talk to everyone. Courtney Nelson, speaking of setting the fastest time so far with a 30.2. See if Michael Watts on his final lap out is going to be able to have anything to answer for him here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now Castrol edge back to 84. Doesn't look like he was able to get there. Sitting in the 13th position right now as Chris Bates is his way up into the 11th position. So certainly not what we were expecting after our practice results showing Dwayne MacArthur sitting pretty in the top spot, but unable to progress any further than the 15th position, just dropping out of the top 15 now as Dean Gear makes his way around. Dan Hill's going to have a late go at it. Don't think he's going to have a whole lot of time. Might just squeeze in this lap as we've got 8 seconds, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is done for qualifying. So that is very, very unfortunate for Dan Hill as he was making his way out of turn 4, unable to make his way to the end of that lap before the race was done. We get prepared for the grid here tonight. Courtney Nelson, last week's winner, is going to be starting on pole again, finding a lot of form towards the end of the season. Dale Copeland going to be lining up alongside. Very nice podium spots there. Clint Rice in the 3rd position, followed by John Hinchcliffe in the 4th spot on the 2nd row. Dwayne MacArthur and Josh Robinson in our 3rd row. Chris Walsh and Lloyd Moore sitting on our 4th row. Clay Walker and Jeff Lydon in the 5th row. Greg McDaniel and Chris Bates in our 6th row. Cycling on back to the 7th row is going to be Wayne Hufford along with Michael Watts. James Waldo and Dean Gear going to be in our 8th row. Dwayne MacArthur and Lee Warsdell starting off in our 9th row. Nick Zortner and Troy Baker, our 10th row. Brian Lynch sitting alongside of me while we get the cameras all proper. Brian Lynch sitting alongside of Darryl Winiger in the 11th row. Alan Wanamaker and Dustin Martinson in our 12th row. Michael Dow and Mark Fish in our 13th row. Greg Hammond with Kermit Gentry Jr. in our 14th row. Patrick Martindale alongside Dan Hill. Very unfortunate not to make a time was Dan Hill towards the end of that one. Sitting in our 15th row. 16th row consisting of Bruce Pearson and Eddie Jones finally making his return. William Martin and Dakota Pischke finally coming back as well. So nice to see some old names coming back to the Old Bastards Racing League with Victor Lane and Jeff Hopkins, our only triple number driver of the night, going to be up the rear of the field in that 36th position. So a lot of drivers coming out here tonight and a good race we have in store. Now, we do have the round of 10, so 10 drivers in the running to get into winning this whole season. Joshua Robinson currently leading the points. Wayne Hufford sitting in the 2nd position, 6 points back. Tom Ogle sitting in the 3rd spot. He has not shown up tonight, so that is definitely going to hurt his chances. As MacArthur sits in 4th. Lloyd Moore sitting in 5th. Brian Lynch in 6th. Greg McDaniel 7th. Dan Hill in 8th. Alan Wanamaker on equal points with him, and Mark Fish sitting back there in the 10th position of the round of 10 as we get ready for 4 races to go, including the one that we've got going for you right now. And here we go, we are underway. Green flag is out. Dale Copeland gets a massive jump on Courtney Nelson, who is just left wanting as he gets dropped by John Hinchcliffe as well. He's going to be all the way back there in the 3rd position. A little bit of jostling for position right now as a lot of these drivers looking where they want to be. And Clint Rice throwing on the high side of Josh Robinson. Not sure that one's going to work out, but you never know with Clint Rice. He seems to be able to find speed no matter where he is, more often than not. Right now, though, losing a spot to Lloyd Moore on that inside line as well. So Rice falling back to the 5th position. And 6th if he loses it out to Lloyd Moore. Still trying something on the high side. And it looks like he's going to be able to stick it up there. Have to see if he's able to stay in front for the moment. And it looks like they're going to be side by side for the lead as Dale Copeland and John Hinchcliffe go side by side. John Hinchcliffe on the outside. He is making stellar progress as he works his way around the 12 machine and up to the front of the grid to lead a lap here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So still side by side racing quite a ways through the field. You can see all the way back. And it looks like we're hinting at some 3 wide action as well. And Rice is going to stick his nose in on that high side. Here comes Nelson on the low side. Copeland is stuck in the middle. And he's going to give up both positions, it looks like. So which way do these drivers decide to go? The top has speed, the bottom has speed, the middle seeming to drop away as we continue to go forward with this one. Rice out the front of Courtney Nelson for the moment. Going to be able to clear that 48 machine without too much drama. John Hinchcliffe has really gotten away from these two as Rice continues to find speed all the way up the racetrack. Doing something different to every other driver so far. We're going to go a little bit further back through the pack. That is Jeff Lydon and Nick Ortner right next to each other with Chris Bates just ahead of them. Wiggly Wiggly machine of Jeff Lydon. 39 continuing to work his way, unfortunately back so far, down 7 positions, but possible tyre conservation, it has to be said, may come into play here. As you can see cars going all over the racetrack. No matter where we look, we're going to go back up to the battle with Courtney Nelson and Clint Rice, because Nelson looks like he has fought back hard and he is on the inside line right now. Rice falling back behind Brian Lindsay as well now as Lindsay works their way up to the top 3 positions. We're going to get a bit of a gearbox look from the back of Brian Lindsay's car and just show you the absolute craziness that is all of the machines behind Brian Lindsay. See, they're just stretching all the way out back around the corner, and they just continue to fan out. As you can see, Clint Rice just behind was under pressure from Lloyd Moore on the inside line once again. Dustin Munson also joining Pac-Man as well as Iron Spider Racing in the chat on the YouTube side of things. And it looks like we're almost hinting at 4 wide, a little bit further back. That was very, very close indeed. I believe it was Jeff Lydon involved in that, potentially, as that was about as hectic as you could get. But these drivers, very much the class of the field all around iRacing. And you can see that week in and week out as they continue to have very solid nights. Not too many incidents. Remember, we get 5. Oh, Dean Gear, it looks like, was way down the racetrack. So Gear having a bit of a spin, comes out the racetrack, almost collects Victor Lane. And Victor just getting out of that one. Good guy Victor telling us before the broadcast show tonight that he was out hunting and didn't kill a single thing. Not exactly the greatest of hunter, but clearly the greatest of heart is what we would call him for that. But let's have a closer look at what happened to Dean Gear there, as he was down low on the inside already and coming up the banking. Didn't want to get anywhere near oncoming traffic as the cars go by. Finds a gap finally, but the corner has already started. There's Patrick Martindale making his way through, and he just clips that curbing. I say curbing, clips the banking with rear tires, and it just sends him round. Very, very lucky not to collect Victor Lane in that one. As you could see, Lane just barely squeezing himself behind Pearson, able to get away with that. So that was about as close as we could get. Back that up one more time and have a look from the gyrocam of Mr. Lane himself, and we'll see just how close that was in real time. There goes Gear for a spin. Whoa! Ho ho! Hear the wind off of that thing. So every single driver of the pack coming down pit lane except for Mr. Wanamaker decides to stay out and see what it's like up at the front. Take a look back at that crash one more time, just because I want to see what brought Dean Gear down in the first place. Being where he was, that's Baker behind. No, just loses the rear end all on his lonesome. Potential net code with Baker. But otherwise, it seemed like it just was a bit too much gas, maybe a bit too much of the wheel turned into the corner. And that is ultimately what led to that self-spin. Luckily, no drivers involved and no feelings hurt other than potentially a little bit of pride for Dean Gear. So Alan Wanamaker, like we said earlier, taking over the lead under caution, not pitting at all. Has to be said, John Hinchcliffe and Lloyd Moore only coming down for, it looks like, a little bit of a splash and dash. Maybe 2 tires for John Hinchcliffe. Lloyd Moore looks like only had a splash and dash, no tires at all. Courtney Nelson and therefore back from the 4th position all took 4. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But like we were saying just before we got interrupted by that self-spin, we have a 5-point bonus for a 0x here tonight. So if you were able to keep your car clean and underneath you, that is 5 extra points getting tallied onto your score, which will be a massive help for these playoff drivers, especially as they continue to try and get the best results possible over the course of this and the 3 races after, before the end of the season. Now we also have a typical 7x incident limit. That means if you get an incident limit that is deemed a 7 or an accumulation of 7 points, then you will be forced out of the race and you will be sent to the Shadow Realm and made to think about your decisions. Alan Wanamaker made his way with a fantastic start with no tyres. Going to be a bit older than everyone else. We're going to have to see how well he's able to stay out front. It doesn't look like for very long, at least as far as John Hinchcliffe is concerned. And he wants to take that spot right away, followed very quickly by Courtney Nelson in the 4 tyres underneath him. So Alan Wanamaker He is falling back just a little bit, but we'll have to see just how far and just how quickly. A lot of other drivers, I'm sure, are going to pay very close attention to that. And that is going to be something to look at in the future. If we get a late caution, it's going to be very, very helpful to know just how well Wanamaker can stay out in front. And it looks like he's going to be past 3 wide as Lindsay sends it to the inside. Robinson high. 3 wide at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Wanamaker almost getting high enough to touch Robinson on the outside. Thankfully avoiding anything. Checking up the middle lane. Dwayne MacArthur having to lift off a little bit. Wayne Hufford as well, almost getting involved in that one. They're still side by side just behind. They're fighting for around about the 10th place, as James Waldo is also finding himself in that mix. Now this pack checking up a lot. That looked like, who was that? That was Clay Walker having a little bit of a bobble a little bit further back in the pack. That could have been disastrous. Thankfully held onto it though, and nothing more doing. As you can see, Waldo just passing MacArthur now, still trying to find a way around MacArthur. Alan Wanamaker, who is doing an incredible job. As there goes MacArthur, who we were just talking about on the high side, carrying a massive run. And here comes Wayne Hufford on the inside of Waldo as well as Wanamaker. And we were 4 wide for just a brief moment, 4 wide again. And it looks like Wanamaker's going to have to check up big time into the pack. Unbelievable, no one getting too much involved in that one. Great driving all around. I cannot believe everyone got out of that unscathed. Big tip of the hat to Chris Walsh there, having to check up right behind Wanamaker and not causing any sort of incident. That was absolutely phenomenal car control from all of these drivers, having to get on the brakes all of a sudden. John Hinchcliffe setting the fastest lap of the race now that he's out in clean air with a 30.4. So still a few tenths off of what we saw MacArthur do in practice. Gonna have to see if times ramp up as the tyre wear and the fuel levels in these cars get lower and lower. The tyre wear getting higher, of course. A little bit of a bobble from that machine we were looking at just there. It looked like it might have been Nick Zordner. Had a little bit of a bobble, but was able to keep it underneath him. The Piggly Wiggly getting up the wiggles. Jeff Lydon thankfully able to stick it into the corner and keep it underneath him. There is a little bit of chaos spreading through the field quite rapidly. Nothing too untoward at the moment, but it is definitely getting dicey for some of these drivers. You can tell in the way they're having to fight their machine. We go further up the pack. Dale Copeland is involved in a little bit of a battle behind with Greg McDaniel and Dwayne MacArthur, who are now side by side. As MacArthur takes that spot away, again, the fastest car in practice, not having a qualifying run he wanted to see, starting in the 15th position, but already up into the 7th place. Sorry, not 15th, the 17th position is where he eventually started the race. And he is up 10 spots, so our biggest mover so far is not actually going to be him, but it will be Eddie Jones, who is up into the 17th position as we cycle back to him. Now, he started without setting a qualifying run at all, and he is up 15 positions right now, just ahead of him. Just behind in the moves up the field is Dan Hill, who has moved up 14 spots in the number 7 machine, just ahead of Eddie Jones. So we're going to have to see these two drivers. We'll see if they're working together to try and both make their way up through the field. As it almost looks like they have moved together past every single driver so far as they work their way up to the front. Side by side, here we go. Eddie Jones has made the move on Dan Hill. But Hill fighting back on the high side now as they continue to work around each other side by side. And Eddie Jones with that massive run on the inside. You can see just how much he closes the gap onto Watts, the car in front. Still closes the gap now as Eddie Jones had to check up a little bit out of the corner. That might be enough. Just gets the nose in under Watts. Watts can't come down. And there goes Eddie Jones. May bring Troy Baker with him, as Baker has a run now on Dan Hill. Here comes Baker. Troy Baker, the 18 machine, working his way the low side as well. We're going to have to pan the camera a little bit further up the pack because we see a bit of a battle developing with Brian Lindsay, Josh Robinson and Lloyd Moore for the third place position. Lindsay in the 24 machine, Lloyd Moore in the me-backed machine at the top there. '26 looking pretty racy at the moment. And it has to be said, Josh Robinson finding himself once again in the top 5. He seems to never stray away from that position on track week in and week out. Definitely one of the titans here at the OBRL Kimball Cup Series. He has been by far and away the most winningest driver we have seen this season, with 12 wins, including an all-star race win to his name. And just seems to get around the track very, very smoothly, no matter where he goes. That being said, though, he has not done it as easy as I would probably let you believe. Still having to fight off the likes of Dwayne MacArthur, Tom Ogle, his teammate, and many others as they continue to work their way around this season. Dwayne MacArthur, as we speak of him, up 11 spots now, only sitting 2 behind Josh Robinson for the moment. So he is definitely wanting to get towards the top of the field very, very quickly. Going to ride on board with Dwayne MacArthur. Very much thankful to him for providing his camera angle for us. As you can see, he probably could have gone for the dive on Dale Copeland, deciding against it. Just running his race very calm, as you can see. Brian Lindsay on the inside there, not having the run he wants as he gets passed by Josh Robinson for the 3rd spot. Giving you an idea of just what the banking feels like here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And that high side seeming to come into its own as Lindsay continues to fall back ever so slowly, potentially using up a lot of tyre very early on in the run. That could also be a reason for the 24 falling back. Rice continuing to try and do something on the high side. No one seems to be running the wall quite like him. We have a little bit, it almost looked like some contact, some rubbing is racing between Winiger and Walker. Just behind him in the 9th position they were fighting for. And it looks like there's a bit of a checkup for Dale Copeland. Lost a whole lot of momentum and he is falling. He's fading fast. As it does look like he is fading quite a bit. So not sure if he's just fallen off pace or if something is potentially wrong with the 12 machine. Pit crew might have to have something to look at, as he seems to be keeping pace pretty well at the moment after dropping back quite a few spots in that small transition. I want to say he lost about 4 places. So certainly not something we wanted to see. Now let's take a look and see where Wanamaker ended up. So Wanamaker was the one who stayed out. He's been out for the longest of this group. And he is on much older tyres than anyone else. About 12 laps the difference between him and every other person He currently sitting in the 27th position, has dropped back. Did take a little bit of time though for him to drop those positions, so that may be something in the future to keep in mind for these drivers, that if we have something shorter than a 10-lap run, that could very well be the way to go. There looks like a little bit of a bobble out of Mike Watts' machine. That's allowed Copeland to make sure he retains that position, and here comes Wayne Hufford. 75 back machine with Newcastle, very happy. Newcastle's win very recently over PSG, and for all the people that don't know, we are talking about teams in the English Premier League, which of course they call football. Everyone in the States and in Australia and quite a few other countries call it soccer, but that is neither here nor there. Whatever you want to call it, it is the same sport, and everyone knows what we are talking about. Brian Lindsay and Clay Walker now. It's definitely looking like Lindsay and Copeland may have... It's almost looking like they have eaten up their tyres, because they seem to be falling back quite a lot. It looked like Lindsay had another little bit of a bobble on the low side of turn 4. So that is definitely costing him a little bit. You can see Wayne Hufford there making a move on Dale Copeland. And it seems like tyre saving is the way to go for the moment. We're going to check in with... Let's check in with Mike Watts, who's just making his way around Dale Copeland right now. And let's see how he is managing. So you can see that's just behind Mike Watts' machine. And it looks like he actually got slowed up a little bit there, because he is fallen back, not able to catch up to Dale Copeland. And Wayne Hufford has created himself quite a gap between all of these drivers fighting for this position just behind, as Eddie Jones is trying to insert himself with Dan Hill into this mix. Hill is finding himself all over the racetrack. That is not the ideal line. And Eddie Jones is going to say, please let me pass. The response from Dan Hill, like, why would I let you pass? As they race pretty well for position. So Eddie Jones does make that move on Dan Hill. Dan Hill with another big bobble. Lloyd Moore with a big run. Coming in from behind. No questions or doubts about that one. And the high line seeming to come into its own with the runs off the corner. As I say that, of course, proven wrong once again. Dan Hill gets a nice run on the inside of Lloyd Moore's machine. 7 car making his way around pretty quickly. Got a battle for position very high up in the field. For the second place spot, Josh Robinson has been caught by Dwayne MacArthur, John Hinchcliffe, Greg McDaniel, and you can see Clint Rice there in the back as well. All these drivers fighting for that second spot. Courtney Nelson has checked out. He is absolutely gone. As we keep looking at this battle here. Does seem like the yellow flag has come out. And oh no, it's going to be Greg Hammond is who we're being shown had a bit of an issue. Ooh, the 68 right in front of him had their own issue. But it looks like they came down, weren't the problem. What happened to the 88 machine? Still driving along. the rear? Yes, he lost the rear. Oh, gets into the 60, 68. And that is going to be... That's going to be that, isn't it? That's about as unfortunate as you can imagine. Excuse us. So that's William Martin, just by the way, involved in that one. Let's take another look at that. Going to take a different angle at it. See if we... It's a nice angle. Buffett just loses it, comes straight in. Not as nice an angle as I thought, to be honest. Whoa! Victor Lane. Okay. I don't know what Victor is doing, but he seems to have this weird, uncanny ability to be able to absolutely thread the needle. We're going to go on board with Victor Lane again. Show this in real time. Oh, shades of Days of Thunder. Unbelievable stuff from Victor Lane. I do not know how he manages to do that twice in one race so far. Not even a third of the way through. Lap 45. Josh Robinson has taken over the lead from Courtney Nelson with a very quick pit stop. Almost a second faster than what Courtney Nelson was, his pit crew was able to do down pit lane. Their pit time's pretty similar. Courtney Nelson just a little bit slower on entry and exit. Josh Robinson with a very stellar performance. I believe he's actually the fastest, and he was the fastest down pit lane. So all drivers taking 4 tires and fuel. But Robinson absolutely sticking on the edge of the pit limit of 50 miles an hour and managing to make it work to the point where he gets a position on Courtney Nelson and takes over the race lead. Hey, Mayo has finally joined us in the spectator area. Glad to have you back. We know you appear every single week as well. Definitely our, almost like a second, I'd almost want to say Jeremy Mayo is almost like a spotter of my own up here in the booth, as he seems to spot incidents and it gives us calls that we may or may not have missed. And always very thankful to him for that. I understand some people may find it a bit patronizing. I actually quite enjoy it because I just enjoy talking to the fans, to the drivers. You know, we're all part of a big, big community here at Team Goon Squad and the Old Bastards Racing League, as I have a bit of a voice break moment. Not sure if the mic picked it up or not, but Josh Robinson and Courtney Nelson going to be starting on the front row for this restart. Dwayne MacArthur and Greg McDaniel chalking up our second row. Clint Rice and John Hinchcliffe in the third row. Clint Rice starting on the low side line. That's not going to be where he wants to be. As we've seen, Clint Rice tends to like the high side a hell of a lot more. A lot Lloyd more, as you may say. Haha. Anyway, I'll hit myself in the head later for that one. But for now, Josh Robinson, Courtney Nelson, gonna be getting ready to take it away back to green. As the very hard left down pit lane goes the safety car. And the green flag is out. Away we go once again. A nice jump from Josh Robinson. Almost looked like there was a bit of turbo lag, weirdly, from the way Josh Robinson just dropped down. And those are probably not the right words I'm using. I think I meant a supercharger, but that is okay, as Courtney Nelson has worked his way around the outside, though. Gets a nice run. MacArthur's going to try and follow him through. There's a little bit of hinting 3-wide action further back, but it doesn't end up eventuating. Only 2 wide so far. And Nelson seems to have the preferred line way up the top. Josh Robinson's going to have to settle for second for the moment. Continuing to be under fire, though, and you can see Rice already, like we said, moving up to the high line behind Dwayne MacArthur. Even higher than anyone else once again. And Rice getting the run. He's going to go to the inside, is he? No, he will stay up the top there. The room is left. Hinchcliffe is going to follow him through. And unable to make any progress around turn 3 and 4. It does seem like turns 1 and 2 is where Rice is making the most gain on that high side line. Deciding to go middle at the moment down to the low side. See if that one works for him as Hinchcliffe continues to ride around the high side. Gets into the wall a little bit. That scares Winiger behind, but thankfully does not slow him up too much. He sticks it out there still. And gets around Clint Rice. So we take a little bit of a breath here as it continues to unfold side-by-side action. Las Vegas allowing a lot of good stuff as it looks like that was Victor Lane on the low side line there. Not sure what happened to him, as it looks like it was an extended stay down pit road. So hopefully all is good on his end. We thought he made it through relatively clean. It looked like he made it through both incidents without any damage. Potential netcode forcing him to take some damage. That is absolutely not what we wanted to see for Victor Lane's night tonight. He is a driver that has been showing promise as he keeps on working his way through the season, getting further up through the field. As we've seen quite a few drivers this season, working their way up position slowly but steadily throughout the season. That has got to feel good for a lot of them as Darrell Winiger makes his way underneath Clint Rice. And does not have a problem taking that 6th position away. Rice says no, though, with a huge run down to the inside. He wants it back. He's going to fight for it. And on the low side, he's going to have to run in the middle of the corner. Going to have to pull a slide job. It's too late now. Here comes Winiger back on the high side. Not enough to get completely side by side with Rice, though. Rice still has the position as they cross the line back into T1. And Rice just has a huge run. Has to check up because of McDaniel just in front. And Winiger is going to be very happy to see that. McDaniel doesn't know where to go. He's almost in the middle. Rice backs out of it. And McDaniel got a get out of jail free card on that one. As that could have been, I'm sure he was mirror driving right there. And that could have been very, very interesting if that one unfolded like it looked like it was going to. But at the moment, Darrell Winiger still up high, still making moves. Taken away the 5th place spot from McDaniel, now working on Hinchcliffe, who himself is working on Robinson. A little bit of a gap ahead of him too, Dwayne MacArthur, who's not too far behind Courtney Nelson. We'll keep an eye on that one. Looks like he's dropped back a little bit further than what we were expecting when we last looked at it. So that is allowing John Hinchcliffe with a mega run on the inside line. No worries, says the number 8 machine, as he is catching up to MacArthur in a big way. Sitting in that 3rd position right now. Going to go a little bit further back in the pack. Lee Warsdale side by side. We saw it on our screens with Chris Walsh. Right behind them, James Waldo. Right in front of them, Chris Bates and Eddie Jones side by side. Jones still fighting with Dan Hill. These two drivers have not separated each other. And they continue to be nose to tail as they're trying to make their way up through the field. Bit of a gap has formed. You can see there, a little bit further behind these drivers. Ryan Lynch, there's Alan Wanamaker, Michael Dow. And there seems to be a decent gap that has appeared behind Michael Dow to Dean Gear. And then a big gap behind Gear to Martinson, who is sitting currently in the 26th position. But it seems like all these drivers are very, very close nose to tail. Some, well, a lot of them, two wide battles as well, all the way down to the 25th position. Just showing you how tight the racing is here at the Old Bastards Racing League. If you are over the minimum age requirement of 35 and really want to get involved, maybe have a go at iRacing, join a league, very, very welcoming, then look no further the Old Bastards Racing League. Get in touch with our man, Dwayne MacArthur, and he will definitely hook you up. Lots of series, not just the Cup Series that these guys run. They run the Classic 87s, very fitting for the Old Bastards Racing name, if you ask me. As well as, I believe, a Xfinity series that they run as well. I'm not sure if they run a Gen 4. I think they might have tried it. I'm not sure if they're continuing to do so. But definitely races all throughout the week. These guys run. Some drivers will run multiple. Some drivers just run 1 or 2 races a week. Either way, this league always presenting itself with a lot of clean racing and a lot of wheel-to-wheel action with friends and rivals in the good way, of course. As it looks like Clay Walker has a little bit of a bobble. He's going to have to get back into the field. That's a bit of an ugly rejoin spot, but he manages to make it work without too much of an issue. Thankfully getting on the banking just before it began in a most spectacular fashion. So, number 2 machine getting back up the field. He has dropped down about 5 spots due to that. Currently sitting in the 14th position right now alongside Lee Warsdale. Just takes that position away in the Skittles machine, using the high side to his advantage. Speaking of the high side, Clint Rice continuing to make it work. Sitting in the 6th spot, 2 spots down from where he started this race. But continuing to be the only one really going all the way up there, and it looks like he's going to have a big run right now. Nowhere to go though, he's going to have to push the back bumper of Hinchcliffe. And unfortunately, I'm sure Rice is very unhappy with what has happened. Hinchcliffe with a lot of blinking issues. That's going to check up Rice, and that was absolutely scary for a moment there. Thankfully nothing doing, but it just seemed like Hinchcliffe had a bit of an internet issue, and that caused the fake wreck that we saw for a brief moment with Clint Rice. Doesn't look like it's going to do anything untoward. Both cars look perfectly okay for the moment. So thankfully iRacing aware that that was not an incident. And we keep going. Clint Rice taking that spot away. Mayo, as always, informing us that there may have been black flags on the restart for Victor Lane and Mark Fish. They definitely showing a lap down, but I don't know if they got black flags for the restart, because a black flag would have got you sent to the back of the field for your first, I guess I want to say for your first incident, or your first misdemeanor. That would have given you an EOL, but Mark Fish and Victor Lane were both down pit road for over a minute, which is indicative of more than just a stop and hold, because a stop and hold would only be about 40 seconds. And who is that down low? That's James Waldo. So that was interesting. Gold 89 machine was way down low, following in the footsteps of Chris Walsh, who was also down very low underneath the apron, or on the apron. Thankfully though, nothing untoward, and we missed it when we were looking at all that and talking about what we were. Wayne MacArthur made a pass for the lead on Courtney Nelson. Nelson has not been dropped, but definitely has lost that position. Just take a look at that lead change very, very quickly, so we can give you an idea of just what was made. And it looks like that outside lane just in the middle there just seemed to carry a little bit more momentum out of turn 2, like we've been showing every night. And it seemed like that was all she wrote, so Dwayne MacArthur able to use that to his advantage and take that spot away. A little bit more uniform from these drivers at the moment. Single file all the way back to around about 9th spot with Eddie Jones and Lloyd Moore. A caution interrupt that thought. Caution shown as Michael Dow. The White Castle machine gets tagged by Mark Fish, and I'm not sure Victor Lane's going to be able to survive that one. All three drivers fairly heftily involved. And it just continues as the 60 gets stuck on the GoPro machine. Victor Lane just manages to slide past before the White Castle machine comes back. And the drivers continue to beat and bang. So let's go back and have a fish, because that was definitely where that all started. Let's have a quick look. So Mark Fish a fair way back from Michael Dow at this point in time. Coming into turn 4. A stellar run. And Dow keeps the inside line. This looks like Fish loses the tail end, as we've seen so many times already. 3 or 4 times this race at a minimum. That's been the exact situation that we've found ourselves in. And just unfortunate for parties involved. Not much that could be done. I'm going to take a look one more time at that one. We're going to see if we can get, because I think this will look pretty good. If we can go, I believe it was just in front. Yes, it was. Get a nice little angle here from the gearbox. And we'll take this to you live. Real time. Let's see, just beating and banging. Those drivers behind. Kermit Gentry Jr. did a nice job giving them plenty of space in case one of those 3 drivers came down. Allowing himself room just in case. So, Jeremy Mayo with a great call. I wish I could have made it myself. Fishtailing out of turn 2. Michael Dow. I'm not sure if he beat the safety car out just then. You could see him on the inside line as the safety car was making their way around. That will be a tight one for the stewards to take a look at. I'm going to assume that he made it out without an issue. But extended stays on pit road. Mark Fish has been down there for 3 minutes and counting. And I'm sure he's feeling the sting from that one. Mark Fish, one of those drivers in the playoff contention. So that one is definitely going to hurt him. Backman letting us know Victor's luck ran out. Third time is not the charm. As you so often used to saying third time the charm, but I guess it works the reverse when the first 2 times are the charm. So Pac-Man and Jeremy Mayo, always very happy to see them in the spectator area, providing us with a few laughs and a lot of insight. Dwayne MacArthur and Josh Robinson will be lining up side by side. These drivers known for their battles. Usually it is Dwayne MacArthur and Thomas Ogle, Josh Robinson's teammate, that like to have a bit of a friendly bump and grind racetrack. But thankfully, well, I don't know about thankfully. Unfortunately, Tom Ogle is not here tonight. Josh Robinson may make up for that. We will have to wait and see. Courtney Nelson and Greg McDaniel going to be showing up in row number 2. Clint Rice and Dale Copeland in third row. Rice again on that low side line, not where he wants to be. Now, interesting, Dwayne MacArthur in the top spot shows the low side line, which is very interesting to see because like we've seen the last couple of restarts, that high side seems to have the run. If the low side doesn't get passed fully by the end of turn 1, turn 2, the run just seems to come out of nowhere for that high side line. So we're going to see how, we're going to have to have a look and see how that one goes. Green flag is out. Neither driver, I would say, get too much of a fantastic launch, but thankfully about similar with each other. And it looks like Dwayne MacArthur was able to clear Josh Robinson, so we'll have to see if Robinson is able to get the run that he wants. MacArthur sections it off though, so Robinson's got nowhere to go, and Courtney Nelson on the low side line seemed to have a lot of speed. It's able to also get around Robinson. So every driver once again did come down pit road, it should be said, for 4 tires and fuel. And Rice in a battle with McDaniel now for the 4th place position. Eddie Jones making up a lot of spots, as he is going to be our biggest mover of the race so far. 25 positions gained for the 14 machine. Just incredibly narrowly missing out on his chance at the playoffs when we went to the round of 18. Missing out for no other reason than participation. Potentially some stuff going on and unable to make races. So unfortunately that really denied his chances of making his way into the round of 18. But definitely showing the pace. We haven't seen him race for quite a while. I don't think the entire playoff series since they began. So it is nice to see him back on track. One of those drivers that we routinely see near the front and seeming to recapture that form very, very quickly. Darrell Winiger on the low side of Then Rice trying something. Rice sticking to what he does best, sticking his nose up high. Clint Rice, a lot of people would probably say, is a little bit more aggressive on track than some of the other drivers out there. I would simply say that Clint Rice knows where his limits are, and he knows the corners of his vehicle, because he always seems to position it in a way to try and intimidate other drivers, or to make those passes, even if they're incredibly close. He knows exactly where to stick that nose to make other drivers have a little bit of a panic. And it seems to be working for him right now as he stays up on the high side and makes his way around Josh Robinson for the third spot. Everyone else is too scared to run that high, but Rice is making it work. Brian Lindsay just set the fastest lap of the race, a 30.2 flat. Excuse me, that was Michael Watts that actually set that time. Right next to Brian Lindsay, you can see there, Lindsay thought about sending it 3 wide around Clay Walker. Decided against it. So Mike Watts setting a very, very quick time. Let's have a look just what these vehicles are running at. You can see 190, in excess of 190 miles an hour. The try over Mike Fish on the low side line. He's come back out after a very long extended stay down pit road. Watts traveling into turn 3 and 4 around about 170. You can just see the mile per hour meter stepping up. 192 miles an hour as they head into turn 1. This turn seems to be carrying a lot of speed on exit. You can see there's an example of that. 180 out of the corner. And equaling the speed on the back stretch as well as on the front stretch. Even though the front stretch is longer, so that's just telling you right there. Turns 3 and 4 allowing quite a lot more speed. Turns 1 and 2. Eddie Jones continuing a side-by-side battle with Lloyd Moore. Looks like he may be able to get the best of him for the moment. Right ahead of him, look at that. Courtney Nelson, here comes Greg McDaniel, and Clint Rice gets a nice run around the outside of Dwayne MacArthur for the lead. Will he be able to do it? Clint Rice loves that high side line out of turn 2, like we said, a lot more speed. And it looks like he was able to get right alongside, absolutely a finger's width away from the high side wall. But out of turn 3 and 4, it just does not seem to have the power necessary. And McDaniel just sending it in on that low side line. Now, Clint Rice not part of this playoff race. Dwayne MacArthur very much involved, as well as Greg McDaniel. And Josh Robinson currently fighting for a top 5 spot. In the top 5 right now, those 3 drivers, the only ones in playoff contention. I say playoff contention, in contention for the trophy at the end of the season. So a little bit hinting at 3 wide action there as Clint Rice goes way up the racetrack. Continues to work that high line. Greg McDaniel seems to have found something that he's very happy with. He's been in the top 10 all race long, but he seems to have found something that he likes right now. 4 fresh tyres underneath him as he is looking very, very competitive indeed right at the moment. Dropping back a little bit from Courtney Nelson there as Courtney Nelson takes away the inside line. Robinson's up high. And here comes Eddie Jones. The 14 machine is following behind in Robinson's wake. You almost have to wonder just a little bit in the back of your mind if you're just Robinson. I wonder why Eddie Jones chose his moment to come back this race. Robinson is currently leading the charge to the championship, and Dwayne MacArthur very much Eddie Jones's teammate, so I'm sure that's not what you're thinking in the front of your mind, but I'm sure there's a little voice somewhere wondering what could happen. As the 23 machine, no stranger to pressure though, he continues to work his way around the circuit without any sorts of issues. Now on the left side of your screen does show MacArthur in the pit. I'm sure that'll update as they come across the line. Or it will not, but he is definitely not out of the pits and still shows him in his place up in the first position. So I don't think it's too much to worry about. Just a little bit of our live timing software playing its little prank on us. It looked like back in the field there, I believe that was Waldo tagging the wall on the outside line. That wall closes up on you so quickly when you get out of the banking. And who was that? That was Wayne Hufford falling all the way down. What happened to Wayne? Michael Watts also showing as going off track. What's happened? Everyone seems like they're okay. I'll have a look at Mike Watts' supposed off track. Oh yes, definitely off track. Let's go back and have a look at that real quick. This happened slightly further back than what we were. Whoa! Whoa! Unbelievable scenes. How a caution was not able to come out of that one, I have no idea. Let's back that one up real quick because that was deserving of another look. So here we go. Oh, a little bit loose for Walker, and McDaniel gets into Watts. Watts comes off the wall back into McDaniel. And unbelievably, no caution coming out of that one. That was certainly something we were not expecting to see. And BLS ending in heartbreak once again. But unbelievably, that was not a caution. The amount of drivers involved in that one. Very, very surprised to not see a yellow flag come out there. Wayne MacArthur just happy to keep churning laps at this point. Bit of a gap has formed between the front three drivers, but here comes Rice right on the tail end, giving a little bit of a sniff to Josh Robinson there. And Rice choosing the low side line, interesting. Potentially seeing Eddie Jones coming up behind. And that might be why, as Eddie Jones has the run and takes that spot away. Closest battle on track right now. Look at that side by side. Lee Warsdale, Boyd Moore and Dale Copeland. These three drivers were right next to where that incident took place. Mark Fish, you can see on that inside on the apron, just trundling along. Looking like he has some more damage to be repaired in that machine. And that all evens out. You know, at the end of all that, Clay Walker unfortunately getting too much of the apron really caused that checkup and that incident, but somehow able to keep the car underneath him and kept going. The overall winner. Just a bit of a mistake on his part, and unfortunately other drivers have their nights not exactly going to plan due to it, to put it that way, as Darrell Winnegar and Clint Rice have a little bit of a touch, bit of a scrape side by side as we get to the 100 lap mark. 50 to go. Fish makes his way back up onto the racing surface. And it makes sense for him to be there. He just wants to churn laps, even if he's not in contention. Wants to churn off laps, and if incidents keep on coming and other drivers retire, he can gain spot after spot and potentially get himself a little bit closer to a championship win. Every point counts, just like when you vote, and every vote matters. Every point counts when you're talking about the championship. James Waldo at the moment involved in a hefty battle with Chris Bates and Chris Walsh. Waldo must feel like the odd one out with the battle of the Chris's at the moment. Walsh gets through underneath. There is Mike Watts making his way around the apron, coming out of pit road after he had some repairs fixed on his machine after that incident. That has really stretched out the field. Not too many close battles at the moment, apart from the one that we are looking at right now. Very, very close indeed, as well as Kermit Gentry Jr. fighting with Dustin Martinson. The inside line is Dustin Martinson fighting for the 19th position. Looks like Martinson is going to take that one. Cycling it on further to the top, Winnegar and Rice. This battle continues that we were looking at earlier on. Rice still trying to stay up high. And we'll have a mega run coming out of turn 4. Is he going to stay up high? Yes, he is. As you can see, we're in Las Vegas. Wonder how you can tell that. Maybe it's because of all the desert. But a nice big turnout here tonight. You can see absolutely packed spectator stands. And the infield pretty full as well. As we take a look a little bit further back, Brian Lynch doing a great job in the 12th position. Just lost a spot to Chris Walsh. And going to try and use that Hooters back machine to make his way back to the rear bumper of the 63 Jim Beam machine. I feel like I could have made any kind of jokes that I should probably keep to myself, to be honest, when it comes to Jim Beam and Hooters. But I don't actually know, because I've never been to Hooters. I assume it's pretty popular because of the food. And genuinely, I could say that, because I think I've heard the food is actually pretty good there. As Lee Warsdale, first one to make a green flag pit stop this race. Coming down pit road in the, currently dropping back a little bit, but he was around about the 13th spot when he came down pit road. And here is the battle for the lead. Dwayne MacArthur a little bit further ahead of Courtney Nelson, who is being followed along by Josh Robinson. Now, we did say we have a fuel window of around about 55 to 62 laps. These drivers last pitted at lap 72, which was when our last caution happened. So around about 40 laps ago at the moment. So they will have to stop just one more time to make it to the end. And I think that was behind Lee Warsdale's decision. Excuse me, Brian Lynch and John Hinchcliffe also made their way down pit road. And they made their way earlier. Lee Warsdale did, so Warsdale not the first one down pit road. But definitely some strategy at play. They know they can just make it to the end. So they will pit as early as possible and try to stay out. The only thing that may change that strategy is the show of the ever scary yellow flag that can turn up at any given moment. These three separated themselves from fourth place Eddie Jones by about 1.5 seconds. So they have a decent gap there. Dale Copeland behind Jones with Rice on his tail. And it looks like Nelson and Robinson both down pit. Oh! Not Nelson and Robinson. Nelson and MacArthur. Robinson staying out as he so often does. Clint Rice also coming down. Winiger, Walsh, Waldo all coming down pit road. Wanamaker, Martindale as well. As Josh Robinson must feel very alone right now, staying out. He probably want to come down pit road pretty quickly. I know he often stays out longer than anyone else. But if we don't get a caution by the time he has to come pit, you'd have to think he's only hurting his lap times. Tire wear, not as big a factor at Las Vegas as we have seen in races past. But certainly a factor no matter where we go. Try this that I've never tried before, and it's like it did nothing, so never mind. Oh boy. There we go. Fix this one up. Alright, so tried to do something different. Seems like that is not going to happen. We've got William Martin shown as being involved in an incident. We did see a puff of smoke on the back stretch. No yellow flag being brought out though. Martinson behind the Piggly Wiggly. No, just gets by himself and hits Waldo on the way out of pit road. Was Waldo. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Waldo with one of the better races I've seen him do. And it is cut short. Out of turn 2. Once again, you're carrying a lot more speed into turn 2. It seems like coming out of that corner where a lot of these drivers are struggling to keep the car underneath them. Brian Lynch and Kermit Gentry Jr. down pit road. Robinson continuing to just churn off laps without coming down pit road. Lloyd Moore has come down. Chris Pearson also down pit road. Let's have a look at Jeff Hoppy Hopkins. One of the first races I think I've seen him be involved in the Old Bastards Racing League, with sporting the rookie triple number that we are so used to seeing. And he seems to just be minding his own business, churning off laps, doing his thing, and doing a pretty good job. Currently sitting in the top 10. I'm sure enjoying his time in the spotlight, as he will be the last of the drivers that have yet to come down pit road. Yet not stopped yet. I was going to say it either which way, but never mind. See Patrick Martindale making his way back around. Hopkins showing you the difference in speed, and Josh Robinson, there it is, coming down pit road. Where, oh where, will Dwayne MacArthur be? So MacArthur heading into turn 2 just now. With Courtney Nelson right on the bumper, as well as Clint Rice not too far off also. Out comes Josh Robinson. They're heading into turn 3. Robinson showing as getting back up to speed. This is going to be close. There's Robinson. There goes MacArthur. So Robinson out just a little bit behind. He's not going to be happy to see that, as Robinson makes his way into turn 4, and MacArthur out of turn 4. So when all is said and done and these pit stops take place, MacArthur will take over the race lead, unless Courtney Nelson says otherwise. Brian Lindsay currently in a battle with Darragh Winnegar. Winnegar seems to be in battles every single time we look towards the edge of the 10th place spot. He just seems to be battling around there constantly. Hopkins comes down pit road. Clay Walker, Eddie Jones, Dale Copeland not yet coming down pit road, deciding to stay out just a little bit longer. 12 Machine wanting some time in the spotlight. Not that he hasn't had some already this race. He's going to have to come down. I would have to say that it is impossible. In fact, I would know it is definitely impossible to make it to the end of this fuel run that he is currently on. Last came in, lap 72. Haven't had a single caution since then. Been green flagged this whole time. Sitting at 52 laps completed right now. It's about to be 53. That is getting pretty close to our maximum, pretty close to our desired fuel window. So he can probably go another 10 laps at an absolute max. Probably not actually even that far, before he will have to come down, as well as Dan Hill, Greg McDaniel, Jeff Lydon and Michael Dow behind, which will give the race lead to Wayne MacArthur or Courtney Nelson as this battle continues. Just making their way around Michael Watts now. Watts finds himself going another lap down. Really, Watts for the past, well, we expected Watts to be on the podium at the very least last week. Unfortunately, having issues, not able to make himself get in there. And this week again, so this is really, really hurting him for his chance at championship. And he's got to be feeling pretty, I would imagine, pretty deflated by what has happened in the past couple of weeks. But if I know Mike Watts as well as I do, I would say that he will bounce back. and always with a smile on his face. So we will see him up fighting for the championship, I'm sure, in the next couple of races. Wayne MacArthur desperately wants this win, as I said, to lock himself further up into a chance to take title or out. Wayne MacArthur winning the non-playoff championship, as I've forgotten the word. That I was looking for. So that was interesting for a second. I accidentally mixed up the Piggly Wiggly machine with Clint Rice, and I thought, how did Rice go a lap down? Thankfully, he did not. As the two black paint schemes making me trip up a little bit. And Josh Robinson is coming in with a vengeance. He has quite a few lap newer tyres, and he knows how to use them, making his way underneath Rice, taking the 6th place spot away, which will end up being for the top 3. Not too far behind as well, it should be said, from MacArthur and Nelson. El Copeland still out on track. 20 laps to go here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Has to be said, interesting to see Greg McDaniel, Dan Hill, and Dale Copeland stay out as long as they do. Almost seems as though these three drivers were praying for any type of caution. And unfortunately, it looks as though the caution will not come. Of course, the commentator's curse more often than not will hit when I say something like that, but it doesn't seem like it's taken effect so far. And here comes Robinson. You can see the pace of that 23 machine just closing the gap as we ride on board the nose of Robinson. Thinks better of going 3 wide with Hammond on the high side. Nelson goes up high. And Robinson to the inside line now. Robinson takes it away. And they come back past Greg McDaniel, who is still yet to pit. And MacArthur must be looking in his mirrors thinking, oh, here comes Josh Robinson. Dan Hill, Dale Copeland, Greg McDaniel, and Jeff Lydon. Somehow, these drivers still continuing to stay out as we take a little bit of a look at the Piggly Wiggly machine. 16 laps to go. And these drivers cannot be staying out very much longer. They must be on fumes as we check back in with Josh Robinson and Dwayne MacArthur. Robinson has been absolutely on rails. His last time by 2/10 quicker than Dwayne MacArthur right in front. That looked very, very close. MacArthur, I'm sure, is going to defend tooth and nail with only 15 laps to go. And there it is. Robinson goes to the inside, makes a massive dive. And it looks like he's going to take the spot away. MacArthur just has no answers for the 23 machine. Going to try and see if he can get back in the draft and make something happen. Must be said, those Fords this entire season seem to be the car to beat. They do seem to have a lot of power underneath them. Chevrolet not doing too badly. I'd say a little bit better than Toyota on the whole. Dan Hill has come down pit road, so that relinquishes the second place spot to these two. So has Greg McDaniel. Dale Copeland must be running on absolute fumes, desperate. And here he comes down pit road. So Copeland with Victor Lane, you can see just ahead of him. Coming down pit road. And that, I don't know if you could hear that, but that almost sounded like someone's engine went up in smoke, which is never a good thing to hear. As we were watching Dale Copeland come down pit road. Didn't see any smoke billowing or anything like that, so it could just be a little bit of a glitch on my end. But this is the battle for the lead right now. As you can see, Dan Hill re-entering the racing surface underneath Josh Robinson. And that's going to hamper the line of Dwayne MacArthur. Dan Hill doesn't want to be a lap down. He's going to do it the old-fashioned way and run around the underside of Josh Robinson with fresh tyres. That's going to hurt Robinson's lap time a little bit, you'd think. And here comes MacArthur trying to take advantage. Just not able to do so, but well in the draft right now as Victor Lane comes out of pit road. Two leaders absolutely neck and neck right now. Ten laps to go here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Victor Lane giving all the room imaginable to these two leaders. Even with fresh tyres, he says he does not want to be a part of this championship battle right here. And this very well could be, a championship fight. Every single driver who needed to come down pit road has done so. Right now, we are just looking for the leaders to see who can out race who. And it looks like ever since Josh Robinson got in front of MacArthur, his pace hasn't increased a whole lot, but MacArthur's has. Obviously using that draft quite effectively, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough as MacArthur falls back ever so slightly, a few tenths heading into turn one, and a few tenths more on exit. It seems like Robinson is just able to get that car dialed in exactly the way he wants it to turn in, just a little bit better. And continues to slowly but surely increase that gap to MacArthur behind. MacArthur closes the gap ever so slightly, just a couple of tenths, or a couple of hundredths I should say, on the back stretch. The last couple laps, when I said tenths, I meant hundredths. But MacArthur pulling the hundredths back, and more so on the exit of turn 4. So at this point, Robinson looking pretty solid to take this one out. Just going to have to hope lap traffic doesn't get too much involved, and there is some lap traffic ahead. Kermit Gentry Jr., the last car on the lead lap right now, in the 20th position. Now, a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but I will say that some drivers don't seem to understand that in NASCAR, if you get a blue flag, that is definitely a warning. However, do not have to let the leader by. It's not a required thing to do. It's a gentlemanly thing to do. But you are very much allowed, if you are on the same lap and you are fighting for your spot on the lead lap, you are allowed to push as hard as you can to keep that leader behind you. As long as, obviously, you do cause an incident, then that may be reviewed a little bit closer later on. James Waldo in pits saying it didn't quite go like he wanted in the spectator area. We saw what happened to you, James, and very unfortunate for Waldo this evening. And it was just simply a matter of wrong place, wrong time. It could not be summed up any different to that. And obviously, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. We've got 3 laps to go. Robinson still ahead of MacArthur. MacArthur trying a whole bunch of different lines to do anything to try and close that gap up. And it does look like he managed to close the gap a little bit last lap by. So potentially finding any ounce of speed he can. We're going to look a little bit further back because Courtney Nelson and Clint Rice are going at it for the 3rd spot. Rice has found his way up to the back of Nelson and around that high side line, paying dividends at this point. And the entire length of the race as Rice finds himself in the 3rd spot. Continue to have a bit of a battle though. Nelson trying the low side line. Got nothing to answer for Rice on that high side. As far as same lines are concerned, the white flag is out for Robinson, who has gained another 10th that last lap by on Dwayne MacArthur, up to 6 now. I don't think MacArthur is going to be able to close the distance. And we look in at Josh Robinson, final corner, lap traffic not playing a factor at all. Kermit Gentry Jr. still firmly ahead of the leaders. And with Piggly Wiggly at his side, Josh Robinson takes it home. Clint Rice edging out Courtney Nelson at the line. Fantastic stuff from these guys at the Old Bastards Racing League. A very much clean race for the most part. A great, great show. So, as Robinson's going to have to back that one up, or they won't, they're just going to decide to do it there, fair enough. As these drivers will pretty much always have a victory photo with the front 3 at the line, deciding the line is not where he wants it to be. So Robinson will be a bit further down for the grid photo. Josh Robinson taking home the lead, as we said earlier, with Dwayne MacArthur and Clint Rice the top 3 positions. Courtney Nelson in 4th, with Lloyd Moore in the 5th position. Eddie Jones, Daryl Winnegar, Chris Walsh, Clay Walker, and Chris Bates, rounding out the top 10 for tonight. We will prepare for driver interviews and scroll through the finishing results as we do so to let you see where your favorite driver may or may not have finished this race. And we will get ready for driver interviews, as we said, while the house gets burnt down by Mr. Josh Robinson. So we've got all the drivers ready for a interview already. That was very, very quick. So straight away we'll get into it, and we will bring Clint Reist up here to the interview. Clint Reist, have you got a copy?
I got you, man. How's it going?
It is going very well. How's it going for you? Because it seemed like the top line was your best friend here tonight.
It was right there off the starts. On cold tires, trying to hold it down is just too damn hard. But sitting there early in the run, right there, running that high side's okay. But eventually, you just start losing too much time, and you can't run it anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seemed like it was really effective on the outside of turns 1 and 2, but when you got to 3 and 4, it just seemed to bog down. That inside line seemed to have a very similar run on the exit. Was that just the way that the corner just shaped a little bit different on 3 and 4 as it is to 1 and 2, or were you just somehow unable to get the power down as quickly?
Yeah, it's shaped a little bit different, but that inside line through 3 and 4 is faster in most cases. But I don't like sitting there trying to follow behind somebody the whole damn race because you're just getting arrow push. So that's one reason I like to run a little bit higher, is just so I'm not getting that push.
Well, it seemed to work very well for you. I mean, certainly third, nothing to sneeze at. How did I guess I want to say, how did the green flag pit stops suit you? Because it seemed like may have dropped a spot. I was a little bit worried that oh man, I don't know where I'm going with this. But
I don't know. I actually thought I gained coming into the pits because I closed in on Dwayne in a hurry. Yeah, I was like borderline speeding coming in. So it's just the pit sequence was out. So that's probably why you're thinking I was a little slower.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I think it's just my brain's melted a little bit. But look, Clint, it's been great talking to you as always, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again before the season's over. Anyone you'd like to shout out to for this third place here at Las Vegas tonight?
Yeah, I just like to tell the admins thank you for putting the show on and you broadcasting, man. Can't do it without you guys. It's fun, and maybe one of these days I'll get past third place. I'm about sick of them.
All right, sounds good, Clint. I'm sure we'll see you here in first in due course, man. Look,
Thanks, man. Take it easy.
right, that was Clint Rice bring it home in the third place position. Bit sick of finishing in third, and to be fair, we do see him quite often in that position, wanting to make it a little bit higher up the field later on. But for now, we have Dwayne MacArthur joining us from the second position. Dwayne, let us know how you're feeling.
Uh, I'm feeling great. That was a good race. A lot of fun. Car felt fun. The field was strong. I think it's the third or fourth time that Robinson beat me with a two-tire strategy this season. So starting to feel like I'm gonna fire my crew chief, but I'm impressed. Like, I mean, that guy's a hell of a race car driver. It's not nothing to finish second to him. So
So interesting. We didn't actually, to be fair, it does actually show it on the live timing, but I was so encapsulated by your battle that I wasn't even paying attention to the fact that he took a two-tire stop. But we have seen that work for him before in the past. But without trying to talk too much about him, we'll talk about you, Dwayne. It seemed like you had the car to beat for the majority of this race. I mean, what happened in qualifying? Because you started way back in the, I believe it was the 17th position.
yeah, I decided I would just dig a hole for myself. I think I just got too safe on the qualifying lap. I mean, everybody here is so goddamn good. But I just kind of, I went into 1 and 2 and I lifted a bit more than I should have, and then I got a bit of a push in 3 and 4. I mean, it's not a bad lap time. It was like a 0.3, but everybody here is so good. The competition's so tight that it really dug a giant hole. In practice, I felt like I might be able to get the pole, but I just didn't execute. I think I needed to risk it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I mean, regardless of where you started, it seemed like it was pretty much your race from the get-go, though, as you made up positions fairly quickly, I'd say, on the grand scheme of things. And it seemed like it was definitely your race to win. And unfortunately, Josh Robinson, as he often does, is just sneaky getting through there.
Yeah, again, just like Chicago and just like another track this year, Vegas is a good track for me. Typically win a lot of races here. Feel really comfortable on the long run, short run, everything. But again, Josh, with 2 tires, and I was going to do it and I chickened out. I just thought I'd play it a little bit safe. It's a points battle for the end. I thought I knew I had a lap lead and probably the most laps led. And I was thinking, I just want to outpoint Josh, play it safe a little bit. Coming down pit road, I clicked 4 tires instead of 2. And then, he did his overcut, and it would have hurt him if he didn't take 2. I don't think he ever would have got back to me. So, kind of the story of the year. As hard as I try, just isn't working out. And I mean, that 23, you got to give it to him. That guy is a hell of a race car driver. So got some work to do. I'm going to fire my crew chief. I'm going to hire a new one. I heard Mayday is up for grabs, maybe for Wayne's crew chief. So I definitely need a crew chief, see if I can make it happen. But glad to put the DeWalt Camaro here on the podium and see where it goes from here.
All right, well, sounds good. I know it was a bit of a tough race, definitely a tough pill to swallow for the loss here tonight, but certainly a second place isn't anything to sneeze at either. Plenty of points that were gained towards the championship in a few races' time, but we'll talk about that later on, as I'm sure I will talk to you again. Before we let you go, Dwayne, any shout-outs, sponsors, family, friends? The floor's yours.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a shout out to this field. I mean, look at this field. Look at the battles all the way. I mean, Clint and Courtney Nelson and Lloyd and Eddie Jones coming back. And I mean, look at this everybody in the top 10, top 20 was just hauling the mail. Great racing out there. I heard great battles going on all the way. This league is second to none. These are the best iRacers on the planet. So I feel privileged to race with them. And, finishing second to, probably the best sim racer on the planet, Josh Robinson, is no bad thing. Thank you to our sponsors, Kimball, Victory Lane Sports, Aologs Butt Kicker, who signed on again to come with us next year for our other series, Admin Box as well. And a shout out to all the admins that help run this league, our social media guys, John and Mark, and everybody for showing up. And of course, you and James, the Rooster Hunter, for putting on a good show with Team Goon Squad. Love everybody. And a big shout out to all the people that tune in and watch the races and make it interesting. That's it. That's it, man.
All right. Well, plenty of people to thank, and certainly we can doubt that, since we know you're very well liked around everywhere, Dwayne. So,
Maybe. I mean, I feel more like a target than liked, but it is what it is.
all right. Well, we will talk to you later, I'm sure of that, in the upcoming races. Have a good end of the season, man.
Yeah, okay, buddy. We'll see you at Phoenix.
All right. That was Dwayne MacArthur bringing it home in the second place spot. Finally, for the definitely not the last time. I can't imagine that. Josh Robinson bring it home in the top spot. Do we have your mic working straight away this time?
Yes, sir, we do. How you doing, Gareth?
Oh, that's amazing. No, I'm kidding. It's been pretty good the last few times. I'm doing great, man. It's been a pleasure to see you win as many races as you are. I'm sure there's a few other people that feel differently about that, but no, it's been amazing watching you come through and do what you do. Everyone considers you basically an alien at this point, and it always makes me wonder whether you are or aren't, to be honest.
I'm not allowed to answer that question.
The way you just make your way through the field is absolutely crazy. But Wayne was talking about that 2-tire stop right at the end there. You want to walk us through what the decision was with that?
I definitely rolled the dice. So this was a really exciting race. The way the cautions were falling, I changed my pitch strategy about 4 different times. And I told Dwayne when I was getting ready to enter the pits there on that green flag pit stop, I was paying attention to how good his stop was on lap 112, and just kind of guesstimating where he was on the track and where I thought he should be if he did have a good stop, and I feel like he did nail it. So it forced my hand at trying something unique because I don't think I was going to catch him if I took 4, and I rolled the dice, took 2, so I could have a little bit quicker stop, and was able to come out of the pits about 2 seconds back from him. And Dwayne, Courtney, and Clint were all running a staggeringly fast pace, and it just kind of worked out.
Yeah, well, it definitely seemed to work out. Dwayne was let's say gracious in defeat, I think is is what we can say. Um, but yeah, it seems like you seem to pit him at the line pretty much every time. He seems to be running the best race. And Josh, it just seems like it's a never-ending battle between you two, but all in good mannered, of course. I will say that it seemed like it took you a few laps to really get going here at Las Vegas. I thought you'd make your way closer to the front a little bit earlier on, but you took your time. I guess you were feeling out the racetrack and seeing what you could and couldn't do.
Yeah, so real early in a run, probably for about 2, 3 laps, you really needed to get some heat in the tires before it would stick pretty well, specifically on the bottom, which is where I would run ideally, but sometimes you can't. And then you never really know what kind of pace everyone's going to run. There's practice, but not everyone shows their cards. And then once we get rolling, it was some pretty phenomenal pack racing here at Vegas tonight.
Yeah, it definitely seemed that way. One more thing that I'll probably ask you about, Josh, before we let you go, which is Dwayne probably doesn't like the fact that these interviews are running a bit longer than usual. Um, we were going to ask you about restarts because it seemed like a lot of people were choosing the bottom line here at Las Vegas, and that seemed like the wrong decision because out of turn 2 seemed like such a run on that high side line. And I know you were one of them. Was that a steep learning curve for you on that high side, especially when throughout the course of the run, Clint Rice would be using it incredibly well up there.
I had the choice. I don't know, probably lap. I can't remember when the caution was, but it
It's
was
a little
before
while
lap
ago.
50. Yeah, and I decided I was just going to keep it on the bottom, and I was going to let the other guys. I wasn't willing to run that quick of a pace that early on, and I didn't want to hold up anyone that was willing to run that pace. So I had a good feeling they were going to get me, and soon, sure enough, we came out of 2, and they made that true.
Well, it definitely seemed that way. But hey, great race, of course, as always, Josh Robinson. So we will let you go. But before we do that, once again, any friends, family, sponsors for another first place finish, your 12th of the season, mind you. So, yeah, anyone you'd like to shout out once again?
Sure. I think my coworker Paul might have tuned in. Shout out to Tom, who may or may not be watching from his flight, if that flight had some Wi-Fi. And then, as always, thanks to everyone at Team Miata. We bounce ideas off of each other, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And then to everyone in the league, this was a really good racing throughout the pack. So happy to see that. As always, that's what we do here. And then, as always, Gareth, thank you for the broadcast. Happy Monday.
Thank you very much. And just for anyone who doesn't know, because I don't think I've ever said it before, this is Monday morning for me, Sunday night for. So, yeah. Uh, but
Hey,
absolute
speaking of that,
pleasure.
who won the Giants Bills game? Because I could probably still get in on some of that.
Yeah, that's not how that works, but I appreciate the optimism, enthusiasm. I don't know, whatever word I'm going for. If I could tell you, I would, man. But yeah, that's not how that works. And anyway, so we will let you go, Josh. Enjoy, celebrate, have some champagne, and we'll see you up here in the booth, I'm sure, in the next couple of races.
We'll see you later, Gareth. Have a good day.
Too, man. So that was Josh Robinson bringing it home in the top position. Now, as always, thank you very, very much for tuning in to the race tonight here at the Old Bastards Racing League Kimball Cup Series. brought to you by Team Squad Broadcasting. I have been your host, Gareth McAllister, from the land down under, and hoping that I can provide the action for you in the way you deserve to view it, and these drivers absolutely deserve to have it done for them. So thank you for tuning in once again. We will see you next week, same time, same place, and don't miss it. We've got Phoenix up. It's going to be a doozy. See you then.